Hello, freak bitches.
Yeah.
You know that what that guy's going through right now, the ranter, when he's like in the groove, and the other guy's like, I got some funny shit to say too, and just shits on his rant. When you see guys at a bar and one guy just starts talking over the other guy, and they lift on their toes and get louder and louder.
Yeah, because there's a chick there and they're trying to score.
That's the worst. Did you ever have a friend that would insult you when girls were around?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
I had a friend fucking knock me down once.
With a punch?
Well, there was a lake near my house growing up, and we used to skate there. It was fucking unbelievable. I grew up in Tarrytown, New York, and we had this reservoir that actually feeds New York City. It's like the main reservoir for the water, drinking water in New York City. And so it would freeze in the winter, and then they had this shack, this big fucking wooden shack, twice the size of this room. And it had benches, and it had a little snack bar, hot chocolate and hot dogs.
Oh, nice.
Then you go outside, and there's like a wooden steps going down into the lake with telephone poles they'd put out. And this was a big fucking lake. Telephone poles around half the circumference of the perimeter of the lake with spotlights and radio speakers. And they would crank fucking pop music, and you'd go out there until 11 o'clock at night. We'd hide six-packs in the snow on the banks of the lake. We'd go out there. We're in 7th and 8th grade, drinking a couple beers, hitting on chicks. And so I'm out there one night, and then during the day we play hockey all fucking day. They had metal nets they would put out, and they would use a plow to plow the snow to make rinks out of the fucking snow on the ice.
Whoa.
It was insane. And this was before global warming. That shit froze by Christmas, and we were skating in March every fucking year.
March?
Well, early March.
How do you know when to stop?
Well, it's 3 feet thick.
But how do you know when it's not 3 feet thick?
They tell you that the town tests it.
Wow.
There's another shack on top of the hill where they have spotters. There's guys that are guys skating with jackets that are the rink guys. And so anyway, I'm there and I'm talking to this chick from the next town over. Celine was her name. I remember this. Deep voice, brown eyes, real fucking Italian girl. That was my type. Little plump Italian. And I'm talking to her, and all of a sudden I get fucking knocked down. This kid, Chris Spencer, had skated towards me and just checked me. And I fell down, hit my head, couldn't get up for a little bit. And I was like, what the and my friends were laughing. I was like, what the fuck was that? And Chris was like trying to break into our little circle of friends. And he was this big dude, and he lifted weights. And that was his way of like getting into the group, was to fucking knock me down while I was talking to Celine. And I tried to fight him later after, when I had my sneakers on, and thankfully somebody broke it up. He would have fucking killed me. But cut to, and Celine liked me at the time. Cut to, what was it? Halloween, the following year. We're running around, and somebody sprayed shaving cream in my eyes, and so I chased him down, and it was somebody dressed as a bum. Knock him down, sitting on top of him, punching him in the face. People start grabbing me, screaming, dude, it's a girl! So I fucking run away. Turns out, it was Celine.
Oh, no.
And guess what? Guess who had a bigger crush on me now?
Her?
Yeah.
After you beat her ass?
Tell me about her fucking childhood.
Whoa. Really?
Yep.
So what happened? Did you have to apologize?
No, she was in the next town, so I just ducked out of seeing her.
How many times did you hit her?
I think a few times. She's a girl.
Jesus Christ.
You know, she couldn't fucking...
Why did she spray you in the face? Did she know it was you?
No, we used to all run around with, we would take shaving cream and we put aerosol tops on a Barbasol can, and then we'd spray each other. You know, when you came home, you were covered. You were a snowman when you came home.
Right.
And we'd have eggs, and we'd slap each other in the forehead with an egg, and we'd run around. There's always one asshole who had Nair, and then you'd have to go home early because he sprayed fucking Nair on your head. So she sprayed shaving cream in my eyes. Couldn't see that well.
Wow.
And I knocked her around a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. My first domestic abuse charge.
I had a girl punch me on the bus once.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a weird thing, man. When I was 14, I got on the bus for the 13-year-olds, like the junior high school bus. And there was this guy who actually became a buddy of mine later. He was young back then. Muggsy Malone. And
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. He was a tiny little dude. At the time, I think he's 2 years younger than me. And anyway, some girl was mad at me for something. I don't remember what happened. But she started throwing punches at me. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I block her punches. And then I looked down, and the dude was like right behind her. And he said something to someone else, said something to him. And he looked at me and goes, yeah, I ain't afraid of you either. And I was like, all right. I'm like, just what the fuck ever, man. It's like,
can I fight this girl before I fight you, Muggsy?
I just fucked up. I was new to the town, and I don't know what happened, what she was mad at me for, but I remember blocking punches by some girls trying to beat my ass. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And this little dude mad at me too.
But Muggsy Malone, was he wearing a little newsy cap? Was he from the 1940s?
I'm super lucky I never hit that girl back, because it turned out she wound up dating my friend Mark, who was the captain of the wrestling team, like afterwards, like after this, and he would have killed me. He was an animal, and he was a couple of years older than us. Like, I was 14, he was 17. He was a senior, and he was like one of the best wrestlers in the state. He was an animal. He smoked cigarettes in between wrestling practice. He would be in wrestling practice, and that girl that tried to beat my ass, she would open up the door, and he would go outside, and like it was winter time out, and he would like take a couple of drags of a cigarette.
Really?
Yeah. While he was wrestling, like at a really high level, he was smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
He was like a thug / athlete. Interesting. Like a legitimate bad motherfucker, like an animal. He was an animal wrestler. Made me realize, like real early on, like wrestling practice made me realize like how hard some people work out. I had no idea how hard some people work out.
Yeah.
Because I had taken like karate classes before, and I had played baseball, but I never did anything like wrestling. Yeah. In my first days of wrestling class, I remember thinking, what the fuck? Like, you guys work this hard? We have to go upstairs. We have to carry someone on our back and climb up stadium stairs? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, why? What? We're doing what? We're doing endless drills. We're firemen carrying each other back and forth across the fucking gym and racing each other and constant live drills with wrestling. I would leave there. I could barely walk. I was so tired. I didn't do any homework while I was wrestling. Yeah. Then I just wound up doing no homework ever.
That's true. With wrestling, it really fucks up your grades. You come home annihilated. You're hungry as shit.
But I just want to sleep.
And then did you have to try to lose weight for meets?
I did, but I wound up stopping doing it because my friend Steven was wrestling at 128 pounds, and he was a better wrestler than me, so I went up to 134, which is basically like what I weighed when I was 14, or 15, whatever I was. So it was pretty easy. I didn't have to cut any weight at all. But then I cut weight for Taekwondo. When I stopped wrestling and then I started fighting in Taekwondo, I cut a lot of weight up until I was 17. And then when I was 17, I was still trying to make 140 pounds. But I'd be walking around at like 150 something, and I would just starve myself and dehydrate myself. It was terrible. Really fucked with my performance. Yeah. And then I stopped doing it, and I went up to 154. And when I went up to 154, I became way better. That was when I got better. Yeah. Like, I was holding myself back by the dieting. And I think that's a big factor with wrestlers. But one thing with wrestlers is that their mental toughness, because of that weight cutting, it's almost worth it. Because it's super bad for your health to cut a lot of weight, but those guys who can do it and still compete, they have the ability to push through discomfort and just have a drive to win that very few sports can match. Because very few sports will the athlete compete in a state of like uncomfort as much as wrestlers do. They're just dieting, starving themselves, dehydrating themselves, and still going out there like fucking savages. So it's just a different kind of sport, man. Different kind of sport. But anyway, that girl basically beat my ass. I mean, she didn't really beat my ass, but part of me
was thinking, younger than you, too.
I think she was my age. Yeah. She was on the bus, too. She was, like, taking the bus back. Fuck. But I was thinking, I better not punch this girl. And, oh, my God, I'm so glad I didn't.
I got smacked by a gay kid in 8th grade.
Oh, shit. You got pimp slapped?
I got pinched. This black kid, Keith. He was really effeminate, and so we used to tease him. Yeah, I'm not proud of it, but, like, at that age, you just kind of did. It was like, you know, I'm embarrassed by it. Like, I used to, whatever, cock your wrist and say shit. And he turned around and fucking smacked me across the face. And he stunned me. I was like, holy shit. And I didn't know what to do because he was part of a family. There was projects in Tarrytown, and there were cousins, and there were families that had a lot of cousins. and his cousins were some badass motherfuckers, the Davises.
Oh no!
And so this isn't to say I necessarily would have hit him after that for a number of reasons. One of which I was not that tough. I was pretty tough with girls on Halloween, but I think I was just so shocked.
Did you know that you deserved it? Did you have a feeling?
I got hit a lot as a kid, and I deserved it most of the time. I got punched in the face in Times Square when I was about 14, drinking Southern Comfort. I walked past some guy who was like some fucking homeless drug addict who was like coughing up a loogie, and so I started coughing really hard too, making fun of him. He came back and punched me right in the face.
Whoa. You don't want to get beat up by a junkie when you're a teenager.
Not in the days of AIDS.
Oh, that's right.
Could have been an AIDSy punch. No, I used to get smacked around. I was such a fucking asshole. I was such a wise ass. Because I was the smallest kid. So that was how I fit in. I was the funny guy who made fun of everybody. I would pick fights because then my friends would fight the fights. I was that guy.
Well, certain things that kids like when they're growing up, and one of the big ones is things happening. We like action.
Yeah.
We like something happening. If Fitzy's going to go fuck with that guy, and then we're going to kick his ass. Like,
because we're bored.
Yeah.
We had no fucking internet. We had no
like
phones.
That.
We stood on a street corner for 5 hours. That was Saturday night.
My friend Kenny would just start fights with people. He would just go find someone like at a bus stop and just start beating his ass.
No shit.
Yeah. He would just
really?
go, come on, we're fighting. Yeah, he was crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, I watched him fight. I watched him get his ass kicked. He did it once with this guy, and the guy knew how to fight. The guy was beating his ass.
Good.
Yeah. He's just crazy.
What's the kid's name?
Kenny. Yeah.
What was his deal?
He was just nuts. He was older than us. He's like one or 2 years older than us.
Big guy?
Nope, not particularly big. Just fucking tough as nails. He had a boxing tattoo on his arm. Like I think he had a Tasmanian devil with boxing gloves on, but he didn't really box.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things. Like never made it to an actual gym. Like maybe a couple of times.
Yeah.
But we just start fights and wasn't really that good at it.
Yeah.
He was just crazy. He was crazy, and he wanted to fight. And he realized that with his limited mentality and view of the world, that the most fun that he had was when he was fighting. So it's like, well, that means we fight. And so he just would want to fight all the time. Like one time my dog got hit by a car. It was really sad, man. I lived on a busy street, and my dog, I opened the door, and she got super excited to go for a walk. And I didn't have her on a leash, and she ran out into the street. I just didn't anticipate her running. She was usually pretty good about it. And she ran out, and she got nailed by a car.
Jesus.
It was so sad. She died right in front of me. I carried her back into the house, and she shit herself. Like, that's when I knew something. I still didn't know something was wrong, but looking back, I would have known. She just shit all over the kitchen. And I was like, I can't believe she shit herself. Like, what? Like, why? She never shits in the house. And then she just slowly slipped away. Just lied down and just stopped breathing, man. Oof. She just bled from the inside, internal bleeding. She got hit by a Volkswagen Bug. Nailed.
What kind of dog?
She was a mix. She was boxer, and I think she had some German Shepherd in her too. Sweet dog. Sad shit, man. It was sad shit. It was a real bummer, man. It was a real bummer. But anyway, I told Kenny, I'd never had it. I mean, I'd had dogs die. We had a dog that we adopted that had distemper. We wound up having to put it to sleep, started going crazy. It was an adult dog. Not adult, but it was over a year old. And it was a Doberman, and it just started barking at us and snarling its teeth, and it just started losing its mind. And we got it to calm down enough we could get a leash on it and brought it to a vet, and the vet said it had distemper. We had to put it down. So I'd had that happen before, but I'd never seen a dog die in front of me. It's sad shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I tell Kenny, he's like, we're fighting. That's it. Come on out. We're fighting, Rogan. You're fucking fighting. No excuses tonight. And we drove around, and he like wanted me to pick fights with people. I'm like, dude, I'm not fucking fighting anybody.
Oh, because that's the way he would deal with his emotions.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Sadness, fight. Anger, fight.
Looking for excitement, fight. And then it's also, there's a thing about young guys, where young guys always want to be the crazy one. Like, oh, Mike's the fucking craziest. Right. Mike's fucking crazy. Mike doesn't give a fuck. And it becomes like a social status among young, especially, we were talking about this before the podcast. Everybody our age was like a latchkey kid. everybody our age had a mom and a dad that worked, and they opened the fucking door in the morning, and you were off to the races.
Yeah.
You went to school. After school, they weren't home for hours, right?
Yeah.
You did a bunch of shit by yourself. And most of the time, we're around other fucking savages our age.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the abstract influence of the parents on the children that is really like giving you your experience for who you are as a young person.
Yeah.
You're experiencing how these people taught their kids and what the result was, because you're around the kids all the time. You're not around your parents.
No, they say that you're raised by your peers. After about the age of 12, you're basically, your parents are out.
Yeah.
You're raised by your peers.
Yeah, you're constantly with your friends in school. You're constantly with your friends in any activities you have.
You're
play
looking
sport.
for their validation instead of your parents' validation.
Exactly. And with my friends, it was always who's the sickest fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike's a sick fuck. You know, oh, Steve's the sickest fuck. He doesn't give a fuck. He's crazy. And there was like a value in that because everybody was scared. That was really at the bottom line of it. We're all young men, and we're on our way to becoming adults, and no one knows what the fuck they're going to do. And we have a few friends that have graduated high school, and they're losers now, and like, shit, that might be me. Like, that was the big cloud that was always hanging over everybody's head. What are you doing after high school? What are you doing after high school? And it was like this impending date of doom that was coming up. So everybody was scared all the time.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to be a man. They wanted to prove themselves. They wanted to be something special, and no one felt special. You know, everybody felt like a fucking loser. You know, we're all like waiting to become an adult so you could get a job like all these other people you knew that were around you, or escape, or figure out a way to escape.
Yeah, and then there's always the community college. Like, people go, well, you know,
Yep.
I'll probably end up, when you hear I'll probably end up at the community college, that's going to be one semester and out.
I did that. I went to Mass Bay Community College. I did it after a whole year. I took a whole year off. And I only went back to school because I didn't want people thinking I was a loser. So I did like maybe one semester at Mass Bay. I don't even think I finished the semester. And then I left and went to UMass. UMass Boston had this like adult education program where you didn't have to have a GED or not GED, SAT, because I never took my SATs. So when I graduated from high school, I'm like, I am never going to school again. Like, fuck this. But I got so tired of feeling like a fucking loser. Like when I tell people I would always say I was taking a year off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I just had no direction. All I was doing was like doing martial arts and competing. And I just was so terrified of what the fuck the future laid. And so I went to UMass for like 3 years, but not like 3 full years. It was like there was still a lot of credits to be acquired if I was going to graduate. And I just was wasting my time. I was barely paying attention. I was completely half-assing whatever project we had. And then I was realizing, like, why am I wasting my time?
Yeah.
And then I got some letter saying that I couldn't come back with the grades that I had unless I came up with some very compelling reason. So they wanted me to make an argument for why they should include me back in the class. And I wrote out in handwritten, because back then no one had a fucking typewriter, this total bullshit letter. This ridiculous, like, persuasive, bullshitty letter about how important education is to me and how important it means, and then I realized, like, the amount of effort that I put writing this bullshit letter to keep these people from kicking me out of their school, which I wasn't paying attention to, far exceeds any effort that I ever put on any project ever in class.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, whatever I'm going to do with my life, it's not going to involve doing this.
Yeah.
It's not going to involve someone else dictating my schedule.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason.
And you're like, clearly I can write.
Yeah.
Clearly I can
Clearly
bullshit.
I can think.
Maybe comedy.
Yeah. Well, I had a conversation with a science teacher. This science teacher, and it was the same kind of thing. I mocked him in class. Not necessarily mocked him, but I brought up something that was contrary to what he was teaching. He was talking about Lake Erie being a dead lake. And I said, listen, man, they had a documentary on PBS last night about Lake Erie making a resurgence. And these scientists have figured out these new ways to minimize water pollution and all this shit. And like, other kids are looking at me like, what the fuck? And he got pissed at me. He got really pissed at me, and he said, you're undermining my class and this and that. I go, hey, man, you're teaching old shit.
Yeah.
Are you teaching old? This is on TV, man. This is on TV like yesterday.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with him afterwards, and because I had to talk to him in order to get back in the class. He kicked me out of the class. And he said 2 things. He said, one, first of all, I don't know whether or not that was the case, whether or not it's true. And if I allow you to just interrupt my class and chime in something like that, and it's not true, I haven't fact-checked it, you're telling the whole class, And I don't know if you're right or you're wrong or you're making things up, but you're interrupting my class. That's the point. If you have something to tell me about it, maybe you could tell me about it after the class, and then I can go and look it up, and then maybe I can correct the class. He goes, but 2, in interrupting the class, you showed yourself to be more articulate and more intelligent than you ever showed ever in the entire semester. So you're totally half-assing everything you do. Like your writing, everything, paper you turn in, every test you do, every time I call upon you for a question, totally half-assed that. But when you wanted to correct me on something, all of a sudden you knew all the words, you knew how to form the sentence correctly, you knew how to say it with the right impact. He's like, your focus is off. I was like, God damn, that dude's on the money. And I realized, I'm like, yeah, so I'm not stupid. All right, I can't listen.
I can't do it their way. I got to do it my way, right?
But I could. I just didn't. I grew up not having any direction.
Yeah.
So if someone doesn't tell you what to do all your life, like essentially you just out free. I would go fishing. I'd hang out with my friends in the fucking woods. We just go find shit to do. And then all of a sudden you're in school and they're telling you everything you have to do all day. Like, I'm not ready for that. I'm not
Not only
equipped for
that,
it.
like, you're sitting I'm fucking shocked when my kid tells me about it. I go, what was your schedule today? Well, you know, at 8:15, we sat down for 15 minutes for homeroom. Then at 8:30, I go to my first class, which is an hour and 15 minutes. Then we get 5 minutes off, and we go to another class that's 2 hours. They got these long fucking classes, and it goes like that till 3 o'clock. They get like 25 minutes for lunch, and they're sitting, boys, with fucking chemicals racing through their bodies, and girls at the next desk with fucking short shorts and cleavage and little brown titties sticking up. You know, when the breeze hits them and they get a little bit of goosebumps on the inside of the cleavage, and that cross, Jesus, is just wedged right in between those 2 brown fucking
Or the Italian horn.
The Italian horn. And it's got glitter on it.
You remember the people who wore the Italian
Yeah.
horn? Oh my
Right.
God. How about charm bracelets?
Charm bracelets. Yeah. The fucking flip-flops, her little
And then
toes. She just
after-
painted them.
Ooh, the toes. Very important. A girl doesn't take care of her toes.
No.
You can't trust her with her pussy.
Oh, fuck yeah. Show me
Sorry,
your feet.
ladies. I hate to do this on Equal Pay Day.